Saddle up your horses.
Saddle up your horses. That's right. We got a podcast to stream. What's up, everybody? It is another episode of the Mainly Broncos podcast. We are excited because, the Broncos are the number one seed in the AFC. I will say, though, and we did an episode last week. There is probably not one person who's probably on cloud nine than that guy over there on the top right corner. I mean, he's living life. He is living life. His team's in the Natty, and the Broncos are the number one seed. So it seems only fitting that we kind of lead it off with how the man of the hour is feeling. The good news is, as you can see, he made it for our stream. It wasn't like he, was out partying and doing stuff like that, 30 minutes before. So how you doing, Jordan?
I am alive, and as you can see, you see the CANES Canes, and just know we are going to the Natty, baby. Love it. Absolutely love it. I mean, did I die almost 5 times in the game? Yeah, maybe. I'm still here.
Yeah, I didn't actually get a chance to watch the game because I was at the Avs just absolute beatdown of Ottawa yesterday, in both the physical sense and the scoring goals sense, with all the fights that are happening over there. But yeah, I can't imagine what you're feeling there. But how you doing, Brandon?
Also alive, sick but alive.
Yeah.
So that's about as good as I can hope for right now.
Let's just say that seems to be the theme for us as a trio. I was recovering from something around Christmas. Jordan, it seemed like, was recovering from something around Christmas, if not a little earlier than that. And obviously now you're sick, Brandon. Actually, you've been sick for 2.5 weeks?
Just a week.
Okay.
It's been since New Year's.
I was going to say, I don't know why I thought maybe it was longer, but nonetheless, we've all been sick. First things first. We're a realist. Right, no way. First things first, hit the subscribe button over there on the MHRT Network page. And as we said, there is a join button, which is basically like a membership. So make sure you hit that join button, and there are different levels of memberships for you in there. It is a $2.99, a $6.99, and a $12.99 membership. Please subscribe for what you feel is in your heart's content. There's also the Mainly Broncos YouTube channel that you can subscribe to. We are slowly but surely getting subscribers there. We're also doing a whole bunch of short form over there on YouTube, on TikTok, and as well as Instagram. Obviously, we had quite the popular one that went just wild over there on Instagram, on the Mainly Broncos Instagram, as well as the Mainly Broncos TikTok. It's been an absolute blast, gents. It has been an absolute blast. The Broncos are the number one seed. What is up, Crimson Knight? What is up? Thanks for hopping in. So yeah, it has been an absolute ride for the Broncos, and it definitely wasn't pretty. But the expected result happened. The Denver Broncos are your number one seed in the AFC.
Yeah, it's I don't think it's really hit me yet with the Broncos, and to be honest, really with Miami, both teams. I kind of have seen like the Broncos clinched such an early playoff berth, so these next few games for the Broncos, they weren't really as anticipated as before for me. So that pregame hype usually wasn't there for me. But then as we clinched the division and we got the 1 seed, it was kind of surreal. I mean, we've got to this point. And it's just it's been a long time since the Broncos have hosted playoff games. I was let's just say I was in middle school when that happened. I kind of remember the
Making me feel
atmosphere
so
there.
old, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But I kind of remember the atmosphere, like looking through the TV and how electric Denver was. I cannot wait to see it now as a grown up, if you want to call me a grown up. But I can't wait for it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Obviously, we're definitely here to just kind of enjoy the ride, if you will. Kind of take us through your emotions, Brandon. Right, like what you were kind of feeling. Obviously, the Broncos were a bit vanilla there as we were kind of ending the season with the Kansas City Chiefs, and then obviously now with the Los Angeles Chargers.
Man, I don't know how to feel about the way that offense performed. I mean, I'm excited that we won the AFC West. I mean, that's never going away. And
Nope.
we got the number
Can't
one
take it away.
seed, which did not have that on my bingo card. Like, no matter what else happens,
Beginning of the
I'm already
season.
going to call this season a success. But it is concerning a little bit to see what that offense looked like for both of those games against obviously backups. Like, you would think I don't know obviously what the game plan going into that was, but you would think if you're going against backups that you can at least sort of blow them out, right? I mean, like I'm not expecting like a beat down, like what the Bills did to the Jets last week, which
Right.
let me recap that score: 35-8. I'm not saying you have to do that, but I mean, you would expect it to be better than it was. So I don't know how to feel. I mean, I'm happy that I'm one seed. I'm happy we won the division. I don't know if it was just like the way that the game plan was called, which definitely could have been a potential kind of, I don't want to say vanilla, but just like make it as simple as possible and get out to that lead, especially against the Chargers. It's like you get out to that lead and just kind of try to coast from there, which I don't know. You can argue if that was like a good game plan or not. Maybe it's better to get some momentum going with like successful offensive drives going into the playoffs, because I don't think we had a single touchdown that entire game besides like offensively. So that's not great.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens. I think the number one thing that I'm going to be really curious to see, depending on, I mean, obviously no matter who we play, but in general, it's like we got to get some kind of run game going, some semblance of a run game, because that's not looked hot.
Oh man, I did not know that Jordan hacked into the Mainly Broncos YouTube account, and
Whoa. What's that doing there?
I don't know what is doing there, Jordan.
I don't know. Somebody commented that, and I would like to let that guy know that you're a good man.
Well, apparently it is the Mainly Broncos YouTube channel.
Oh, so Brandon, thank you. I mean, we support you supporting us.
I got you, man. Yeah,
it is the Sleeper Broncos account through Mainly. So yeah, and obviously, Big Mike, we'll definitely talk about some of the.
I think that's John Elway's burner, actually.
We'll definitely talk about some of the coaching news. If there's anything that's like I would just say it's a downer, but also expected, it would be the coaching staff news this week or bittersweet probably is the best way to say it. So we'll definitely talk about some of that coaching staff news that happened this week. But we don't need to delve too much into that Chargers Broncos game, other than, because it was so vanilla. Let's just start with some of the positives, from that game. And I will say, and just might as well just lead it off with the game balls, if you will. I would say the biggest positive of that entire game was probably two things. The defense showed out. And they were creating turnovers. That was probably the two biggest things of that entire game. Obviously, the turnover margin has been something anemic regarding that defense and creating turnovers and turnover margin and everything for that team. So to at least have a game like that before they go play the teams in the playoffs is at least a good sign. Like that is a good sign to have for a game to kind of get you in the right frame of mind before you go into the playoffs. I don't know whether that's going to be a trend. I hope it's a trend, but that was a good game to have just to get the mind right as you're getting into the playoffs. So first things first, from the defensive perspective, it seems like from start to finish, they had one heck of a game, and they were getting turnovers on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was finally great to see the defense capitalize on some of the opposing team's mistakes. I mean, I already know everybody knows I had my prediction for Hufanga to get his interception in the postseason on a very critical time. But it was nice to see the others step up and get some plays made, because ultimately in the postseason, if you want to not be one and done, your defense needs to create turnovers. And I think this defense is good enough. We just haven't seen it consistently in the regular season. So
at least end of the season.
Yeah. So to end the regular season, it was good to leave off on that note, and hopefully it now carries into the postseason.
I mean, if we can somehow get the positive regression going for the turnovers in the playoffs, I'm going to be real happy about that, because it's been kind of concerning based on how well the defense was playing. Obviously, the first half of the year, we kind of hit that same weird bye week lull that we had last year, where out of the bye week it just kind of falls apart in every way possible, which might have been.
And then the offense ticks up a little bit too.
And the way that he just calls the game, and just maybe there's a pattern that teams pick up on. I don't know, but you want to see more takeaways, and especially going against backups, you want to see more takeaways and more turnovers that the defense is able to force. So that's something I'm going to be looking forward to as well in the playoffs, and hopefully we continue that going, continue that momentum going into the playoffs. But I think, again, if we can have that positive regression hit at the right time, that could be huge. But yeah, I mean, I think to me the biggest kind of game ball that I would want to give is just to J Mac for that, obviously, pick six that he had. Great play by him. Just continues to be one of the most underrated corners when slot corners in the league. So good for him. But yeah, I mean, I think I would have hoped to see more from the offense in that game. It's funny because it seems to be like one or the other shows up. Either the offense shows up or the defense shows up. And the offense started showing up a lot, and the defense was phoning it in. And then you kind of see the opposite. So you got to have both those pieces come together.
Specifically,
we have a week to figure it out because we have the bye, but we got to get that. We got to get that sorted out.
Specifically from like the end of season perspective, because we talked about it, like the end of season, that offense for the Broncos was kind of taken off a little bit when the defense was kind of dropping down a little bit. So yeah, if we're able to get that complete game that we relatively got in that second half of that Packers game, yeah, they're going to be a legit tough team to beat, whether they were on the road or home. So yeah, they're going to be a pretty difficult team in general. Yeah, I just think that one of the things we talked about, Jordan, last week was obviously we let off with the simple one that is very obvious, which was Trey Lance is a better quarterback than Chris Olajuwon. Like he is a better quarterback than him. Obviously, we know that the history. He was a top 5 pick, drafted by the San Francisco 49ers. It clearly didn't pan out, but he was a top 5 pick, right? Like he was projected to be the franchise quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. It definitely did not work out to, what he had hoped. And he's kind of, jumped around to different franchises, good enough franchises where you kind of seen maybe somewhat of a little bit more of a honed in development. But, at this point also too, with that career, it kind of also is what it is. And one of the things we talked about was the cage rush, the cage rush for getting to a quarterback, and specifically getting to a quarterback of a mobile quarterback. And for the most part in that game, the Broncos did a phenomenal job with that cage rush to get to the quarterback. And frankly, this is a really interesting game because JFM, John Franklin Myers, was inactive. So this is a glimpse possibly into the future of 2026 this year. in this upcoming season, if you will, in 2026, of what can be without JFM. So that was a really nice little thing to see with the Wazirike stepping up for him.
Yeah, Wazirike actually was a bit. Actually, I would give him a game ball. Like I was thinking about it. I'm gonna give Wazirike. He stepped up. I don't think he didn't like play down to the competition because like at the end of the day, the Chargers' offensive line is down bad. So, but again, I thought he stepped up and he showed some promising tape out there. And maybe you never know in the postseason we may need him for a snap or two, and he could probably make a game changing play. You never know. But I thought he played well. And to be honest, like I know there's been a whole thing about Trey Lance. Trey Lance, in my opinion, didn't play that bad. Like I don't think he was that bad at all.
Relatively speaking, I mean, yeah.
Like I know, like the stats may not say it, but like I thought he did some stuff that were pretty good. I mean, at the end of the day, like I understand, like it's the last regular season game. A lot of people are out. Like the circumstances really aren't normal, but like for the most part, like it's not like he like totally derailed the offense. I thought he showed some, and maybe I'm just overdoing it, but I really think like Trey Lance wasn't that bad, like at all. But again, I thought our Broncos defense did what they were supposed to do. They didn't play down to the competition, even though it was hard to get up for those games, knowing the other team's not playing the majority of their starters and stuff like that. But in terms of game balls, I mean, Wazirike for sure gets that.
Yeah. Well, and I think I would just say if there's probably one that's like a kink in the defense that we saw was probably a kink in the sense of the regular season when it comes to mobile quarterbacks a little bit. Brandon was like when they were there and they were trying to like bring down a quarterback, it seemed like the Broncos kind of struggle a little bit of bringing down Trey Lance. And that's to Trey Lance's credit, by the way. And that just goes to show like his size and how big he is, the frame and everything. And so to his credit, to what Jordan was saying, I don't think he did play all that bad. Because like they had him a few times like dead to rights. And then he shook out of it. You're muted, Brandon.
I don't remember. Yeah, I was trying to get to the
you're good.
button. I think it was Benito that just like completely whiffed a sack.
I think
it was third down too, and just like had him absolutely cornered and didn't wrap up at all. Just like kind of phoned it in terms of his technique and actually getting a hold of the guy. And Trey just got out of it pretty easily. So that was infuriating to watch for sure.
Cam, sorry to interrupt, but the first play of the game in this Oregon-Indiana game,
I heard.
I mean, wow.
And
those of us that didn't hear, would you like to illuminate me?
Dante Moore dropped back to pass on the very first play of the game and threw a pick six.
Love that.
Yeah, that is.
I love that for him.
That is something. So with that being said, I'll say this from the Indiana and Oregon perspective, from the Broncos and Chargers perspective too. If there is one thing that I think kind of like haunts me to a degree in the sense of like why I don't want the Broncos and Chargers matchup to be a thing in the divisional round, I hate the idea of playing a team a second, like from college football perspective, it's playing a team a second time. From the divisional round and playoff round, you're playing the Chargers a third time around.
Yeah.
Right. And I would hate to play a team a third time around. I just, and that goes with any team, like whether we were going to be playing the Chiefs a third time around in the playoffs, whether we would be playing the Raiders, God, heaven forbid they actually made the playoffs this year, but just even the Chargers, I think that when you look at it from the standpoint of like facing a team a third time, that is such a hard thing to overcome sometimes as a team. because specific to like the games are going to be far more chaotic at that standpoint as well.
I mean, I think that's just the downside of the AFC West. It's just the division's too good, man. It's going to happen.
Yep, I agree with that. I'm a big believer in that you don't want to face a team. Again, in this case for NFL, it's the third time. In college football, it's the second time. And I mean, uniquely enough, there's times that you can even play a team a third time, because if you meet them in the conference championship, you may meet them in the college football playoff. But and I actually unfortunately dealt with that my high school senior season for basketball, where I played this high school twice in the regular season, beat them by 40 and then by 20, and then in the playoffs, district championship game, lost by 5. It is a real thing.
Well, I mean, I speak this obviously as, a Nebraska fan, but like Nebraska had that happen when they played Washington. I want to say it was 1 year, and they played Washington. They beat the crap out of Washington. And this was back when Jake Locker was the quarterback. Jake Locker, Tennessee Titans legend, Jake Locker. And I think that like the what was crazy to this conversation was like, then they faced Washington again in the bowl game and they got smoked. So it was like the complete opposite. And, everybody was just all talking about this whole idea of like, I don't like the idea to be facing a team a second time, specifically from the standpoint we killed them the first time. So you just, and given the bowl preparation itself, yeah, it was all lending itself to the idea just how rough it is to face a team a second, face a team a third time, specifically from the division side of things. And I guess on top of this too, Brandon, and we can even continue the conversation probably to the Chargers' credit of a reason why I don't want to face them a third time, is Jesse Minter's a madman. Like, get that man out of the division, please. Because
I think he will be.
I would hope so. But like,
we're going to have to maybe play him again first.
But given the fact that he had backups, like the Chargers were intentionally playing backups, that he was intentionally coaching them up and playing them and coaching them up and playing to the best of their ability in a meaningless game for them. They were playing out of their mind. That defensive line, frankly, was the reason why it was a close game after all between the Chargers and Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be truly a test if we end up having to play them again. The one thing that I will say is I hesitate to know how they get past the Patriots going to Foxborough. Not that the Patriots have proven to be world beaters in terms of beating teams with a winning record. In this case, I think they'll have one. They have a single team or single victory over team with a winning record. But I don't think, like you talk about, a lot of the times you'll talk about, you hear people talk about like a lack of a running game being the playoff killer. Like, you don't want to go into the playoffs and not have a consistent running game, and that's going to drown you. And unfortunately, that is kind of the situation we're facing in Denver. But I can't imagine that having one of the worst and most banged up offensive lines in the league is not
for the Chargers.
For the Chargers is not worse. Yeah. Like that's got to be the absolute pinnacle of like, you can't have that going into the playoffs. And that's what the Chargers are working with, unfortunately. So I don't know how they can get it done with that just MacGyver duct taped together line that they have without Justin Herbert getting killed. So, I don't think that we will play them again. I could be wrong though, because he's been kind of doing it all year. But hopefully we don't have to face the demon.
I think if you're I agree. If you're a picking man, you're probably going New England. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I'll just quickly say that I don't expect to play them, but like at this point, I never dealt a hardball that team. And I know you guys just said it, but with the amount of injuries they've had, and they're still in this position, and it's pretty frightening. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't know, man. I doubted the Ravens all year.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because it's like now you kind of flip things off to the Broncos side of things from the offensive side, right? We just spent a little bit of some time talking about the defense and how incredible that was. This is where I feel like Sean kind of contradicted himself today. Like, I don't know if you've been kind of following himself in the pressers and stuff like that. And he came out and basically said the offense has sucked the last 2 weeks. And I mean, he's not wrong, right? Like, he's not wrong. The offense has sucked the last 2 weeks. But also, too, there's many people that, do know football schematically and everything. Tim Jenkins specifically, he's a friend of the program. He's a friend of Mainly Broncos. I've been trying to get him on for quite some time. Obviously, Brandon and I have done a show with him before, so trying to get him on has been a little bit difficult. But he came out and said after the Chargers game, that was a very vanilla offense, meaning a very preseason type of offense, very bland type of offense. And so seeing that, and then Sean coming out after the game and saying, sometimes you game plan for what's on the opposite side of you, meaning like what the other offense is doing or stuff like that, right? But then he comes out and says this today, like, saying that the offense is just flat out sucked, the last 2 weeks. So it's like, okay, so what are we doing here, Sean? Like, obviously, yeah, it sucked, but are you trying to like hide the fact that you don't actually want to come out and say, yes, we had a conservative vanilla game plan?
Yeah, in my opinion, I think that's more of that. I don't think he wants to publicly say that. And I know we'll get into it now, but I understand the frustration at the time of how the offense was operating and stuff like that. I don't have a problem with it just because, again, this is a team you might see the following week. So you don't want to, throw everything. Like Sean knows what he's doing.
It's just hilarious to me, though. I know it's Sean being Sean.
It is. Yeah. But yeah, I think it was very good coach speak by Sean Payne. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, I do think like there is something to be said for, hey, they might be playing them again in 2 weeks, and they don't want to give away too much.
Definitely, I didn't think about
Jesse
that. Shout out Seegers,
which definitely valid. I'm struggling to figure out if it was entirely on the way the game was called, or if it was also the way that those plays were executed, because neither seemed to be where you would expect them to be and where you anticipate them being for a team that is the 1 seed now or playing to be the 1 seed. So I think there's stuff to fix across the board. But do I think that that's going to be the game plan moving forward? No. I mean, as much as I like to sometimes bag on Sean Payton in terms of like his play calling, which he's forgotten more about play calling than I will ever know in my lifetime. But sometimes he just does stupid things. Like, I don't know. I know there's kind of that running joke of all of the like kind of trick plays he calls, and eventually one of them is going to work.
Weird moments.
Right? But it's just like, okay, but you don't need to. Like,
right.
if your offense is like playing with its food and you're having fun and you're blowing someone out, sure, whip those out. But like, I don't think that's entirely necessary. I don't know. But the other thing that was like pretty concerning to me, given again the entire kind of year how well we've been in this area, is I don't know if it was like miscues. I think there were like a lot of miscues on blocking assignments on the line, because that was the worst I've seen this offensive line pass protect ever in recent memory. So that's not good.
And I was just actually going to go off of that too. Like I was like one of the other talking points I was going to say, was I think there were some factors in that. Like, I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm trying to prop up an offensive line performance that was quite anemic and as you put it, like the worst that we've ever seen. But I will say I think that there were some key moments that may have knocked it out of rhythm altogether, right? And both of those, if you will, were quite concerning as as Bronco fans. The first was when Alex Forsythe went down with an injury.
Oh my gosh, dude.
The moment he went down with an
That's what's
injury,
on my mind.
the run game did lose itself. Like the run game lost itself. Just because of like Forsythe was creating holes. Like he was creating a lot of, some decent holes for guys like RJ Harvey, Jaleel, and stuff. And then they put Sam Mustipher in, who's a veteran, but he hasn't exactly had all that time. At least this year, he had some time last year. For people that don't know, he was here last year, with the Denver Broncos, who the Broncos, ironically enough, signed from the Chargers. That the week leading up to this game this last Thursday. But he comes in, and it's downright awful at that center position. Then I think what took the wind out of the sails of the entire offensive line was the moment Garrett Bowles went down, and it was a concerning injury.
Yes,
like that was a concerning injury. I wasn't sure whether he popped his Achilles, or it was some like just very bad high ankle sprain. So I probably speak for everybody. Like that was really scary. And then obviously he comes back, and then he played, but it didn't change the fact that that offensive line was just it was actually almost like Jesse Minter looked at that and just said, they're injured. Let's sweep the leg on this. Let's just go. And then it was just like that defensive line for the Chargers, Brandon, was just nonstop in the backfield.
And these were also still the backup defensive line. But yeah, I mean, the Garrett Bowles injury specifically was simultaneously terrifying, and I was gutted because, I mean, Garrett Bowles has gone through a lot with this organization in terms of like him starting out as a rookie and having all of those holding issues for multiple years and kind of going through it there, but also just being on a team that had no identity and was lost and just didn't know how to win for years. And then on the precipice of by far and away, I mean, like we made the playoffs last year, but far and away the best season that he's seen this team be able to put together and most success they've had, just like potentially get a massive injury in the final regular season game before the playoffs, playing for the 1 seed, just like, man, that would suck. But thankfully he did come back. I mean, I was relieved to see that, and then him being able to plant the flag at the end was I'm sure special to him. Shout out to both Bowles and Miners. Actually, they were both named to, I think it was PFF's All-Pro first teams. So not the official one, but the one by PFF. But yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that he was not seriously injured. And I think he came out like after the game and had talked about like, it hurt, but I'm playing. Like,
yeah,
he's tough.
Another reason why, thank goodness, we one came away with the win, and two, we locked up the number 1 seed with that bye week, Jordan, because it was they needed that extra week just to prepare. And actually, to your question, Garrett Shelton, this is actually good news. We'll end up, talking about it a little bit more to come next week's episode. But yeah, we actually got really good news when it comes to Greenlaw. Sean Payton said today to expect Dre Greenlaw to play in the game when it comes to division rounds. So really, really good news for the Broncos on the Dre Greenlaw front. I think it'll be interesting. We'll just keep this question up here for a second. Maybe, and I know we're going back to the defense on this one, guys, but because of this question, I'm really curious to see what the Broncos will do at that linebacker position. I know we had that conversation when Greenlaw was out the first time, but I almost feel like it's the conversation we did have in the last go-around of this, where you almost have to try and go objectively with Dre Greenlaw and Justin Sternad. Like, do I think they will, Brandon Jordan? I don't think so. It'll probably be Alex Singleton and it'll probably be Dre Greenlaw, but you have to go with Sternad and Greenlaw at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they do that. I don't think they do Greenlaw and Sternad together, but I think in the divisional round, I understand Greenlaw is going to play, and I'm happy he is. I think they're going to go with the hotter hand in terms of the linebacker. I know Singleton's going to play nearly every snap. It's going to be Singleton and Greenlaw or Singleton and Sternad. I don't think we'll see Greenlaw and Sternad together unless I am divisional round. I'm glad that John Franklin Myers will be back for the divisional round.
Mm-hmm.
And then just mentioning it now, did see that J.K. Dobbins is close to returning.
Whatever that means. Sean did not. Sean did not close the door on whether or not it was divisional or whether or not it was championship, but he did say it was close. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And what'd you say, Brandon?
Yeah, I don't really know what approach they're going to take there. I think obviously you got to try to get Dre Greenlaw back to his old self and kind of how he's been playing since he came back from that initial injury. And he's looked good, but I do worry a little bit just about the linebacker spot in general. Like that seems to be still a weakness of this team, even with obviously Greenlaw. I love Alex Singleton, and he's made some plays. Like he's made plays that I full on did not expect him to make in pass coverage. But I think, unfortunately, you can see that be a weakness that gets taken advantage of in kind of the middle intermediate of the field by opposing offenses. And I think you're going to see that, unfortunately, a lot, depending on who we go against. Specifically, like if we do end up playing against Buffalo again, we draw the Buffalo matchup.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of their guys. I mean, I know that they, Josh Allen is the magician of like making crazy deep shots, but I think their current leading receiver is Dawson Knox, or one of their tight ends. I don't know. Like they have a weird receiving core of like guys that are kind of better in the middle of the field or like intermediate of the field. So I don't know. I'm interested to see though, like how that's going to play out, because I do think that's there's going to be, you got to have some help there. I think from just the rest of the defense in making that not be as appealing of a concept for the other team to just kind of take advantage of every play.
So I know we've spent nearly every game recap talking about, where things were on the offensive side of the ball, where things were on the defensive side of the ball. Let's look at it from the perspective. It's the end of the season now. Or not end of the season, but it's the end of the regular season now. What are some things specifically that the Broncos they should be worried about, but also things that you look at that could be X factors for this team heading into the playoffs, that if they actually get this going, he can be an absolute X factor or a certain, thing for this team. Because I think the way, and it may come across as bias, obviously, but it's just like what should be scary about this Bronco team when it comes to the playoffs. And it's probably one of the reasons why I brought up the Philadelphia Eagles like a month ago, was just because we've seen this team when it comes to playing the Packers, and specifically when they play the Packers. When I say that, specifically playing the Packers, it quite literally ruined their season. The Packers were in the playoffs, obviously, but it was heartbreaking. It was the heartbreaking loss for the Packers. But we saw everything come to a head, right? Like we saw everything come to a head for this team where the running game, the passing game, the defense really bottling down in that second half. If they get that, and they truly get that, I realize that this is a conversation you could probably say for any team in the AFC, but you get that kind of team and you get that team to kind of show up specifically with the home field advantage, that is going to be such a difficult team to beat, in this AFC playoff. So, what are some things for you guys? And I'll take it to you, Brandon. Like, when you look at it, like this team specifically that they would want to either work on or even kind of the X Factor conversation.
I mean, I think the X Factor conversation is the thing that a lot of the teams in the NFL not had to experience for almost 10 years, which is playing in Denver in the playoffs. Like, that's going to be a rude awakening, I think, for a lot of these teams. They're going to have to, because obviously the AFC playoffs go through Denver. So that's going to be, I think, exciting. The one thing that is it's just something that I see pretty often that I think is funny is when you do see it talked about by like guys like Brett Coleman and some of the pretty well-known and respected media content creators. You always hear them talk about like, oh, it's going to be cold. It's going to be cold in Denver and no one wants to play at the elevation.
Have you seen this December?
Like, bro, it's like 65, man. It's not going to be cold. Like, that's not going to be part of it. But, just coming to Denver and like, obviously the elevation is never going to go away. The fan base is going to be loud and hyped up to have a home playoff game. So that's going to be, I think, for sure, still an X factor. The cold is not going to be as much of a part of that.
And obviously, this is Colorado. Things change. Like, it very well could snow.
It could
17 feet tomorroot. But it was like 65 degrees in December for a game. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. But other than that, I do think really it's going to be Bo using his legs. Like, that's kind of the only thing we can do right now that is like somewhat reliable as a rushing attack, just because I don't know. There's something up with like, obviously the adjustments and the personnel on the offensive line and the injuries, like when Forsyth went out and like Powers being out, but just like the run blocking hasn't been as good as you would like. But then also Harvey has not been as good as you would like. And obviously J.K. Dobbins, up and down. J.K. Dobbins, like, being clearly the like top runner on this team, not being available for a large swath of the season and hopefully coming back in the playoffs, but we got to get to that point first. Like, I think when you can't rely on a elite running back and you can't rely on an elite wide receiver because they don't have one, and the wide receivers that you do have are also kind of up and down. I mean, like, I love Courtland Sutton. And Pat Bryant has played good. Like, he's promising, but he's a rookie.
I see that smile, Jordan.
We'll kick it to Jordan here in a second to completely discredit what I just said.
I know, exactly.
And then Troy Franklin, like, he's really turned it up a notch and seems like he's, a more reliable receiver. But the playoffs are a different animal, and like, you just don't know. And this is a very young team that has not been super battle tested in the playoffs and doesn't have that experience. So not having like that superstar supporting cast member,
and I know,
at a skill position or at running back or something of that nature is going to be tough. And so like the only remaining X factor is Bo Nix and his legs, pretty much. Like, that's just, it seems to surprise people every time.
Yeah, for me, the X factor that can make a deep impact on these games, I'll continue to say it. We had to figure out a way to get Marvin Mims Jr. the ball on offense, not on special teams, on offense. It blows my mind that this entire regular season, I would say besides the Colts game, which ironically I was at, he was underutilized in almost every single game. I don't know what's going on there. I know I've seen explanations of he needs to understand this, and that.
And
I've seen him in the past make plays, aka last year in big moments. He needs to be a big part of this run. He just does. I know he needs to do better with route running if that's the excuse or if other things, right? But you just got to get the ball in his hands and try not to always make it on screenplays, even though I know that's his favorite way to get him the ball. But at that point, it becomes way too predictable. He can run routes down the field. We've seen it before. It's not like he's a little kid and he doesn't know what anything means. I would have his routes go down the field. I would try to get him the ball because if we can have a Marvin Mims Jr. where we got like in the Indianapolis Colts game or the Bengals game last year or any other, or a few other games last year where he really balled out, I think this offense changes a bit and it changes for the better, especially in the passing attack. So I would just say that Marvin Mims Jr. has to be a big part of what we do offensively.
Well, here at
Well,
Mainly
I do regret to inform you, Omar Cooper just scored on a wide receiver handoff in this game, which means he's now locked in as our 2026 first round pick in the draft, because we all know that's Sean Payton's favorite thing to do is run a jet sweep with a wide receiver. So
yeah.
You might get your wish, Jordan, because Marvin Mims is going to relegate duties to Omar.
We'll see.
I was going to say, well, here at Mainly Broncos, we like to break rules. So I have two. I have two, and I will stick it to 2 words for one. And it's kind of a cop-out answer in a sense because it could involve everybody. But I got 2 words. Red zone. They got to get better at the red zone. I think if there is one thing, like from a whole season perspective for this team, is that they've clearly shown, whether it's been up-tempo or however they do move the ball, they are a pretty solid team despite not having any stars, at their playmaker spots. They have shown that they are good in terms of moving the ball between the 20s, right? Like they're good in terms of like putting it between the 20s. It's just, how can they be a consistent team inside that 20, inside the red zone, and how can they really put points up on the board, right? Because points will always win you games when it comes to that red zone, right? And so I think that, specific to, and whether it was vanilla, conservative, et cetera, whatever, the last 2 games specifically were very rough showings when it came to that red zone. They would move the football down and it would do nothing but result in the field goal. They can't have that. In the postseason and the playoffs, they can't have that. Now, I think there's a devil's advocate to that, which is, you're going to have ugly games in the playoffs. Like you're going to have some games like that, right? Like you're going to have some games like that. So you absolutely have to do your best to, to stop the other opponent and, have opportunities like that. So, but red zone specifically is one of the biggest things. And I think that a lot of that in terms of how it can help is Bo Nix's legs, utilizing Marvin Mims. And then the other one is one where it leads into the second point that I was going to say that frankly should be an X factor. Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram needs to be an X factor.
Yes.
For this team. Yes, he has been underwhelming for a season, but still he's still had roughly around 500 yards as a tight end. And if you were actually looking statistically for a tight end season on average, I'd say that's probably the average tight end year. But for Evan Ingram and for probably what they brought him in, yardage-wise, may not be what exactly they expected. But I think when you look at it from the standpoint of what he can give this offense, what we've seen with this offense on boom or bust plays, he can really change things dynamically for the defense. Because the moment that you allow him to be a joker, because right, like Sean Payton talked about it himself, you can have multiple jokers on this team. RJ Harvey, Evan Ingram could potentially be those types of guys based on how he described it positionally. You give me some opportunities where Evan Ingram is in space, and he's got a one-on-one matchup with some linebackers because of the matchup nightmare that can possibly present. I wonder so much as, are we saving Marvin Mims for the playoffs? I think that is a conversation. But I also wonder, too, are we saving some things and some opportunities for Evan Ingram where we will be creating a lot of opportunities in space for him, which are some of those plays that we saw in Washington, right? Like the quarters, they were in quarters coverage and they run that route which put him on Bobby Wagner, and he put him on skates and he ended up running 40 yards in that overtime to set up the game winning touchdown, if you will, for the Broncos in that game. So I'm very fascinated about the Evan Ingram 2 discussion, because you do that is one more thing that this defense, and specifically the secondary itself, has to really keen in on. Can't talk. As a defense.
I agree. If it wasn't for, I didn't know we can break the rules and choose 2, but Evan Ingram would have been.
Well, now you know. Brandon already knew the rule, but he decided not to break it. But yeah, he knew that mainly Broncos, we like to break rules.
I only think we have one X factor because I don't think Evan Ingram has been good enough to be our X factor. I'll be honest.
But also
he's been decent. He's been one of the best tight ends we've had, but the bar was not high.
It wasn't high, no.
So, I mean, I think he's definitely going to be able to make some plays, but I don't know if I would call him an X factor.
Yeah. Now watch. All of a sudden, he's going to end up.
You want my X factor? My second X factor? It's probably like Jaleel McLaughlin.
Oh, interesting.
You know what? Everybody knows I've been a little bit of a critic of Jaleel, just because I think that he isn't necessarily as elusive, probably as like an RJ Harvey. He obviously doesn't have the contact balance of RJ Harvey, and I do think Harvey's the better back. But there is one thing you cannot teach when it comes to Jaleel McLaughlin, and that is fight. And that is fight for Jaleel. And I think that for him, there's an underrated trait that he has, and he's clearly shown in these last 4 games that's kind of made it a little bit difficult for him to get off the field. And that is he has that wiggle room. And Sean talked about that when he was a rookie, or when he was brought in, if you will. And he has that little wiggle where if he sees that hole, he's going to try and hit it, And so and he's been really good at it, where the vision's been pretty impeccable these last four games or so for him. So I kind of dig that one.
I think he's averaging like 6.5 yards per carry right now on almost 20 carries. So not exactly a tiny sample size. And it's also not just based on like one gigantic long run that he's able to pop off. Although he could do that. I mean, I don't know. I think he's going to still be he's not going to be like the bell cow. Like, obviously, the bell cows don't even really exist anymore, but he's not going to be like the guy that you give the majority of your carries to. You can't really do that.
Truthfully, he should be taking Tyler Bidet snaps, but that's
he should be. I mean, I think you need to use him like, as I say this in the like least direct connection way imaginable, but like, if we want our running backs to be similar, like if we want to use our running backs similarly to, like, let's say how the Lions use their running backs, you want McLaughlin to be kind of like your Gibbs. Is he remotely close to Gibbs? No, but like that explosive guy. Whereas RJ Harvey is your David Montgomery. He's like your power.
Right now, we're talking about
right now.
Yeah, because Harvey, ideally,
it's always going to be like that. But
because you want
that's
Harvey
the way.
Ideally.
But like based on what you've seen from both of them, that's how they play. And
exactly.
Is Jaleel McLaughlin, Jahmyr Gibbs? Not even like he's not even in Jahmyr Gibbs' area code, but that's how I think you need to kind of play it.
No, that's interesting. Because like to his credit, these last 4 games for him, have been really pretty solid. That I didn't exactly, probably to his credit, give him enough of, So let's take a beat on the game. because there is a bit of some bittersweet, news that kind of came out during the week, if you will, and that was the coaching staff news. And obviously, the best way to say this is the mark of a good football team is when other teams are trying to poach from your staff. Right. Again, that is the mark of a good team. Sean Payton has mentioned that. I don't know how long. Like, he has mentioned that forever. And Vance Joseph, Davis Webb, and Jim Leonard are getting interviews for opportunities for other teams. Davis Webb is getting interviews for jobs, numerous jobs. He has actually taken an interview with, I believe it was the Raiders. He's taken an interview with the Giants. And then, granted, it's not the entire league that Davis has taken some jobs with. It's just certain jobs. Some people speculate that it's just for a promotional job to go to offensive coordinator. But I wouldn't rule anything out. I think it's fair to assume it's going to be offensive coordinator. But and then there's Vance Joseph, who's for all intents and purposes, taking interviews with the entire league, and he's earned it. From you look at it as the season goes, guys, he has definitely earned the right to be taking these interviews and taking these head coaching interviews. The one that just hurts my soul is the Jim Leonard one, because there is only one team who has requested to interview him, and that is the Dallas Cowboys. Given the fact that Brian Schottenheimer spoke so glowingly about Jim Leonard specifically during the week, that it just feels like, the Broncos actually have a possibility to lose 3 people on their staff. One, the supposed defensive coordinator in waiting, then the defensive coordinator and probably soon to be head coach Vance Joseph, and then maybe Davis Webb. Davis Webb is their offensive coordinator.
I mean, I've heard that Schottenheimer has spoken glowingly about the potential of Jim Leonard as his defensive coordinator, which is terrifying.
My timeline. Yeah, it's all over my timeline.
The Vance Joseph stuff is interesting, right?
Yeah. It's interesting, Jordan, because so the way I'm wondering is because there were ways we looked at it, right? Like the 3 of us when we had this conversation, because it's I would have rather preferred Jim Leonard to be the DC. But if you're looking at it, does this mean that the options for Vance may not necessarily be there? They're interviewing him and strongly considering him. But if Jim Leonard leaves, that may or may not give us a pretty good indication that maybe Vance is staying. Maybe Vance is staying and they're bumping up his pay, to a little bit more. So maybe he's staying. So I agree with you. I think it's just, it kind of brings back the whole new the conversation we had previously of it makes you wonder about where he is right now, with the Broncos and, and everything.
He's kind of I'm going to compare him to him, but they're also different at the same time. He's sort of like the Eric Bieniemy in terms of everybody wanted in the media for Bieniemy to get a head coaching job. But when you actually look within the details, Bieniemy was never a good interview, and that has been detailed and noted. With Vance Joseph, the media is glowingly they talk glowingly about him. People think he's going to be a head coach. But instead of interviewing poorly how Bieniemy does, Vance Joseph, he interviews well. People like Vance Joseph, around league circles, he's really good. So I'll be very, very surprised if he doesn't get picked up. But at the same time, I guess I won't, because I don't know what team is going to pull that trigger on Vance Joseph. I don't know. It's just weird.
Brandon?
I don't know what to think about the Vance Joseph thing. I mean, part of me like wanted him to get a head coaching job
Mhm.
just because of the unfortunate now trend that we've seen of after the bye week, his defenses kind of fall apart, and I just don't get it. I do think there, unfortunately, is a strong possibility that we lose both of them. I just think that like Vance is probably going to get a head coaching job, and I think Jim Leonard is going to be told that he will be the next defensive coordinator for us. But it's up to him on if he wants to be our defensive coordinator or if he wants to go somewhere else. I can't imagine that we didn't tell him when we hired him that he was like our heir apparent. But you never know. I mean, could the Cowboys, try to pay him a lot of money to get him to come there? Sure. I mean, are they going to? Because Jerry Jones is very cheap and is not the Waltons. I mean, there's no salary cap on head coaches. Just write them or on coaching staffs, actually, in general. Just write Jim Leonard a blank check. But I don't know.
I will say this. Jim Leonard being the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, the move itself does not scream Cowboys to me. That's why it's surprising. But I think that, look, and everybody knows I am a Jim Leonard homer. I've been a Jim Leonard homer, since the Big Ten days when he was with Wisconsin, and him being a defensive coordinator with Wisconsin, the interim coach and everything. And obviously Wisconsin really not doing right by him. So if I'm specifically Leonard, whether it's the Broncos or this new team that I'm going to, I want to make sure that there is enough stability for where I'm going to as my next team. So I should say stability and loyalty for this next team that I'm going to be going to, which is one of the strong reasons why I felt like Jim Leonard was the defensive coordinator in waiting, and frankly, he still can be the defensive coordinator in waiting. But I just, you kind of have to ask yourself that question of like, is it just more so the opportunities, or is it more so just the fact that he kind of knows where he wants to go, whether it's the Bronco job or some other job? He knows that other job, he kind of has an idea where he would like to go. And maybe that other job is the Dallas Cowboys. I want to ask you guys though, because like this Vance Joseph question, because it is a fair question in a sense, because I'm going to one-up you, Jordan. I know you mentioned Eric Bieniemy, because I think that there is a very realistic window that Vance Joseph isn't the Eric Bieniemy, but he could be the Dennis Allen to Sean Payton. And I think that there's actually some room here, because if you're Vance Joseph and you're asking yourself, bro, Garrett Bowles this whole situation in 2 to 3 years' time of taking everything that happened from the 2017 year to the 2018 year and turned my biggest haters and people that were hating on me, criticizing me, all in Broncos country, and have turned them into big fans of everything that I would have been doing. To also, I'm a local. I love Colorado. I still live in Colorado. My family lives in Colorado. I have a good thing going. Like it's almost like I am in my dream job, right? Like I am in my dream job. And I'm not saying whether or not, that Vance is, not cut out to be a head coach. I'm just saying, like, from the perspective that he's in and being paid millions, and being in a situation where, as Brandon described, where it's like there is no salary floor when it comes to coaches, and it comes to staff. I'm at a position where I could just simply ask the Walton Penner group of just like, hey, is it possible to get a little bit of a bump in pay? And maybe just kind of stick around a little bit or whatever. But it's just like, I really think there's a very realistic chance he kind of looks at Denver as actually, I should say this, the Vic Fangio of things, where I'm just going to just stay and be the defensive coordinator for a pretty long time for the team that I've always adored and and had a lot of respect for as a kid.
Yeah, I can for sure see that standpoint. The Dennis Allen comparison is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I'm thinking about it. It's a good one. It's just again, I don't know if he's gonna interview for these head coaching jobs, and like if I'm those fan bases, I guess this is how I'm viewing it. If I'm those fan bases, like for example, like the Titans or the Falcons or the Dolphins, like the first person that comes to mind that I want my team to hire is probably I could probably think of like 2 or 3 other coaches before I say Vance Joseph. I think,
Yeah.
and I mean that with all due respect, but I think that's probably what is getting to me. Like, is he really gonna be a head coach this cycle? Like, I don't know, because he's more than capable. He is, but I don't know. It's weird.
So let's go through the jobs then. Let's go through the jobs. You have the Cardinals. You have the Raiders.
Where he was the defensive coordinator before we hired him to be our head coach.
Under Cliff Kingsbury, funny enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have Cardinals, you have Raiders, you have Giants. You have Titans. The Titans and Giants were probably the 2 teams that have the leg up on everybody, based on their probably whole interview process. So and then you have
which can actually real quick, let me just say this. It's kind of crazy that these interviews are happening while we are still playing football as like a team, because I feel like he should be preparing to get his defense ready for the playoffs instead of like being able to interview. I mean, I know that's how it goes, but I'm just like, I feel like maybe that should happen after the Super Bowl. Nothing I could do about it, and that's been the way it's been. But I haven't really thought about it until like we're now in this situation, and I know it's a bye week, but I'm like, damn.
Well, so just that's the rule, though. Is like the only teams that are allowed to, or the only teams that are allowed to give their coaches the interviews are the 1 seeds and people who are unemployed.
I know, but I'm still like, come on, we need all the time that we can get.
Yeah.
You can't even announce it. I don't know. You can't even announce it until we're eliminated. But anyway,
what's up, Chitwood? Maybe you're related to Jimmy Chitwood from Hoosiers. But I don't know. But to Sean Payton's point, he did mention they weren't going to be practicing as much until like the end of the week, so he was allowing them to maybe take some of these job interviews and everything. So,
well, not practicing, but just prepping.
Yeah, but
anyway,
I mean,
it's moot. But
I get it though at the end of the day, because it's the PTSD of the John Fox, Jack Del Rio, Adam Gase, era. When so I definitely get it. But yeah, so you have the Raiders, you have the Cardinals, you have the Titans, you have the Giants, the Miami Dolphins now, Jordan. The Miami Dolphins are they did in fact move on from Mike McDaniel. The Baltimore Ravens was one of the biggest shockers. They actually pulled the plug on John Harbaugh. That feels like it's been kind of peaking in that direction, maybe the last couple of years. Maybe with some of the strife happening between John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, thus basically choosing Lamar Jackson over John Harbaugh. And then you have, I'm drawing a blank on some of the other teams. Help me out here, boys.
That have requested to interview him, or
no, that head coaching jobs.
You said 7 teams, or we have 8.
We have 8.
Raiders,
Dolphins, Browns, Raiders.
Browns.
Yeah, the Browns didn't request him though.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just listing the teams that that have head coaching openings.
Yeah, I mean,
Like when you. So my question though that I was
Yeah,
just
go
kind of that I was just kind of leading off with was just there we go. Dolphins, Ravens, Giants, Titans, Falcons, Cardinals, Browns, and Raiders, with obvious GM openings until today. The Dolphins and Falcons, because the Dolphins hired the VP. The Dolphins hired the VP of the or assistant to the VP from the Green Bay Packers. But when you look at that
guy that they hired a general manager,
yeah, but when you look at that though, you're ranking some of these jobs, and because we were having that Vance Joseph conversation, and it's just the head coaching thing in this, in a nutshell. What would you say is like the most attractive job?
I mean, you want to automatically say that it's Baltimore. I feel like that's probably still true. Like the funny thing is, like the number one opening and the number one candidate were both from, like, the number one opening is Baltimore, and the number one candidate is the guy that they fired, which is just funny. But I think the only thing that's like weird with why I'm like, I don't know if I want to list the Ravens is like, yeah, they're by far and away the number one opening. I mean, like, yes, Lamar Jackson. Okay. He's amazing. But two things. He's been really up and down this year, has had a lot of availability issues. Also, there was like a quote that came out that was talking about how the candidate they want is someone who can like invigorate Lamar and like reach and invigorate Lamar Jackson, which is like, that's interesting. And also their defense has been bad. So I don't know. That's kind of interesting, but I do still think like they're up there in the sense of like what the kind of most appealing positions are. I do think like the Giants are pretty high as well. I mean, it's funny to say a New York team is a attractive head coaching opportunity because it's just neither of them have been for like ever.
Right.
But Jackson Dart looked pretty good. Cam Scatterboo also looked really good. The biggest issue, honestly, with both of them is like health, and the way that they play is not good for their health.
It's not.
I
always love the reels that I see. Yeah, I always love the reels.
Yeah, did you see the one of Cam Scatterboo like slamming his head into? I think that was like from high school or something.
Yeah,
or college. I mean, he had a helmet on, but he literally is standing at a brick wall, just slamming his head into the brick wall like crazy, dude.
Yeah,
he's one of one. But like they've both been good. They have a very high pick. They have Malik Neighbors, who obviously, like is coming off of the ACL tear, but he's looked really good. Abdul Carter. They've like probably one of the best defensive lines of football. Like I think that's a pretty attractive opening as well. I'd say I'm between one of those two. It's either the Ravens or the Giants as like the number one. And I want to say the Ravens, but there's just some weird things about it that I don't know.
Jordan, there's one that you can't say. But sadly, I'm just telling you can't say because for one, you already talked about your Miami Hurricanes at the top of the show. So you can't talk about this other, one that's open.
It's funny enough. Who was it? Was it Todd McShay? Oh yeah, it was Todd McShay. He was talking with some GMs, and they mentioned Cam Ward in the same tier as the young superstar quarterbacks right now in the league. And Todd was like, "Really?" He was like, "Yeah, everybody in the league thinks like he's really good." It's unfortunate because I know a Titans fan, and like their owner is just not it. And he's been running that organization to the ground as of late, and that would be a very desirable job in my opinion, but the ownership is bad. It's just right now it doesn't look great, but it's a place where if a very, very experienced head coach and get what he wants out of ownership and can get alignment from the top down, I think that can be a very, 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 very good place. I mean, you never know what's going to happen in the AFC South year in and year out. You have no idea. I mean, it looks like the Texans were going to be the division winner year in and year out. And they last 2 years, they haven't looked great at all. The Jaguars now look really good. Who knows what they're going to be next year? The Colts look like the best team in the league at one point this year, and then they lost like 6 in a row. So
Traded 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner.
yeah, so you just don't know what you're going to get from that division year in and year out.
Who then got injured?
Yeah,
Daniel Jones got injured.
So I think Tennessee would be a great job. It's just you need alignment. It's the biggest thing in sports.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it could force Tennessee to really be aggressive and actually like be legitimately aggressive. And frankly, they should because of the quarterback, and everything that they have lined up for them specifically at the quarterback position, because it's the Giants argument too. As long as you've hit on your what supposedly is your franchise quarterback, it's one of the biggest things you have going for you. And so I am, I didn't mention this to you, Brandon, but Jordan knows it's like, if it was me and the Titans, I would do everything. I would do everything in my power if I was the Titans to try and close the gap as much as I can by bringing in a veteran-minded coach. And the first name that comes to mind for Tennessee is Kevin Stefanski. It's like one of the number one names in my mind for the Titans job. The Falcons are just a little bit interesting, and I have to throw a name out there just because he didn't interview with the job with the Falcons because of a certain reason. And now the general manager is gone. The CEO is gone. Obviously, it seems like Matt Ryan might be stepping into a bit of the John Elway type role. We'll be curious to see how that works out. But I say the Falcons just from the GM perspective, because how many times we've seen sometimes like coaches come in and it's imperative that they have the general manager and head coach pairing correct, right? For the Broncos' sake, they kind of lucked into the idea that they had an unbelievable draft evaluator in George Payton, and then they brought in a terrific ownership group, and then on top of that so it's a different way to look at it. But when you can mesh your GM and your head coach together in one, it's a pretty decent chance that you'll be on not butting heads, but you'll be on a pretty good path as far as philosophy. And at times, it also hasn't worked out, right? Like the Raiders specifically didn't exactly work out for them. So that's why I'm kind of like looking at the Falcons jobs, just because it's interesting. It's hard not to, dismiss the Ravens, right? The Ravens are number one, right? Like as far as, and I think if I'm Vance Joseph, I'm looking at all these jobs. I don't know if I want nearly every single one of these jobs except for maybe one. And that's the Baltimore job. I would love Vance in Baltimore. I mean, he's obviously, as we know, he's the ultimate player's coach, right? Like he is the ultimate player's coach. And just from the standpoint and the part that, when you look at it from him bringing in possibly an offensive mind, and if he does bring Davis Webb with him, oh man, Davis Webb with Vance Joseph in Baltimore. I'm curious. And so the name I was going to roll out to, I didn't get a chance to say it for Atlanta, is Bill Belichick. That's a clean slate, right? Like one of the reasons why Bill Belichick didn't want to go there was, I think, the general manager, right? Like so it's just the name I'm kind of filing away a little bit. And obviously things aren't exactly going as peachy down there in Chapel Hill, for North Carolina. So it's just kind of a name I'm kind of filing away a little bit.
Yeah, I think the Falcons, though, I'm not gonna lie, just from the stuff that I heard from Lombardi and stuff like that when he was talking about it at first on his podcast, seems like that bridge is, I think, burned just because of how they went behind the scenes with some certain stuff. Terry Fontenot he didn't want Bill, so he was trying to convince the owner to not hire him because he knew if Bill was hired that Bill would fire Terry, because obviously Terry Fontenot, as all he does is draft playmakers, but you need to win in the trenches, but God forbid we fix that. Yeah, I just think that whole relationship with the Falcons is done with Bill, even though I would love it because Bill with those playmakers on offense and then fixing up that defense would be really good.
Yeah. So it's just gonna be a fun thing to watch as far as this head coaching cycle, and of course, from the Broncos side of things, how great
Bring me Bijan Robinson. Sorry, that's all I have to say about the Falcons. Bring me Bijan
or Drake
Robinson.
London or Drake London. But I was just gonna say though, it's just like, and how great does it feel that of those 8 teams, the Denver Broncos aren't one of them. We have the quarterback, we have the head coach, we have the ownership group. We are the number 1 seed in the AFC. Just a great feeling. Speaking of that, of the playoff, let's kind of take a look at some of these playoff games, and maybe from a Broncos perspective. Too. What is the most exciting game that you guys are most looking forward to? And then from a Broncos side of things, what is the matchup you guys will hate the least? And then hate the most?
Most exciting game, I will go with I would say the 49ers and Eagles. I know that's NFC, but I think just overall in the playoffs.
It's all playoffs. Yeah.
The team I want to face, if I were the Broncos, oh man, it's tough. I know I would be contradicting myself, but I wouldn't mind facing the Chargers. I wouldn't, just because how banged up they are. And I think if Sean Payton were to game plan correctly and really throw out everything, I think we can put a good beating on them. I just don't like the idea of playing a team 3 times whatsoever. The Bills are interesting. Yes, they have Josh Allen, but the rest of the roster is not good. So kind of got to pick your poison with that. The Texans, they have a lot of hype, and I understand it and don't understand it at the same time. But I understand why people are scared of them. The team I want to face the most is Steelers, though. If every high seed can win, I would love to face the Steelers. Realistically, though, I think I'd go with the Bills.
Are the Gators playing right now? No.
Negatory. Negative Ghost Rider. I think for me, the most exciting one, I'm kind of torn, but I think it's going to be probably the Jags and the Bills. That's going to be a fun one. Although I do think Chargers Patriots is also going to be fun. And then the one I'm going to hate the least, you mean, is that like the most, or how, like, what do you mean by hate the least?
The one that you would enjoy.
The one that I would enjoy. Okay. I think it's probably still got to be the Jags and Bills, just because, like, if Trevor Lawrence keeps it up with the way he's been playing, that should be a fun game. The only thing that's going to be, like, I don't know, interesting to think about is with what happens with Josh Allen? Is he going to have to kind of do that some heroics where, like, they get behind because their defense isn't that good? It's just, like, kind of the same game that has been happening with them the whole time. I would say Packers Bears, because, like, the kind of first game we had between them was pretty exciting. Although pretty much since the Packers lost Micah Parsons against the Broncos, they've been falling apart in every way possible. They've lost like 4 in a row. So I think I'm probably going to say, I think my answer honestly for both is going to be like Bills, Jags, but Chargers, Patriots is a close second. And then, yeah, like absolutely would love to play the Steelers. Like that would be crazy. Good in crazy good and also crazy because there's no way that that's happening.
I have one that congratulations, you guys get your participation trophy in, you guys are going to be out in the playoffs here in about 2 seconds. And that's the Carolina Panthers. Because congratulations, you're in the playoffs, but you get to play the team that you beat in the regular season and they're going to be pissed off playing you. Yeah. So that's like the one that's like, just the whole participation trophy when it comes to the Carolina Panthers. If they win, they win, and congratulations.
The Panthers somehow hosting a playoff game with a losing record is insane.
At 8-9. Yeah.
At 8-9. And also, this is the first time that the Panthers have hosted a playoff game in 10 years. And David Tepper celebrated by firing 6 of his executives on the
team. Right.
Worst owner in sports. Well, at least in the NFL.
I think for me, and maybe it's just because of just the landscape of where they're at. I would really hate to play the Jags. I would really hate to play the Jags right now. One, they proven to come into Denver and win rather handily. I think there were some obvious factors that led to that. Of we didn't perform all that great in the second half. To Jags defensive credit, the execution wasn't all that sharp when we played them in terms of tackling, miscommunication, that sort of thing. So they're probably on the very short list of that, in terms of the teams I don't want to face. If there is this is also kind of a separate question, but if there's a team who has the most pressure on them, it's also the easiest answer, but it's Buffalo. Because you could probably pinpoint and do like an asterisk when we were just rattling off the 8 teams that have head coaching openings. You could probably put an asterisk by that, and because we may be getting to 9, because take the Broncos and the road to the Super Bowl, out of it for a second. But objectively, if you're just an NFL fan, there's probably no team that has the most pressure on them going into the playoffs than the Buffalo Bills. They lose this Jacksonville Jags matchup. You can go ahead and circle Sean McDermott up for a job opening. And then if John Harbaugh or whoever else, doesn't have a job by then, Buffalo's going to get desperate. And want to hire a coach as fast as they possibly can. So basically I could see a John Fox type situation with the Buffalo Bills if they don't win this playoff game. Or I say all that, if they don't go to the Super Bowl or let alone the AFC Championship game in this kind of landscape of the playoffs this year, don't be surprised if they fire that McDermott coach.
Yep.
And then
I feel like Bills fans got to be tired of hearing like, this is the year. If you don't make it this year, you can't make it.
The Los Angeles Chargers are on the next season of What If when it comes to Marvel, and then the Bills are on the landscape of what you just described, Brandon. Like it's just it's just crazy.
Yeah.
But I think the obvious answer for who would you want to play the most is obviously the Steelers. I will say though, I'm confident playing the Texans. I know that sounds a little bit crazy to a degree because the defense travels, and the Texans defense to this point has a better defense than the Broncos. It's not even close. But I think that when you look at it from the standpoint of it's flip-flop now. The Broncos are at home. The Broncos beat them in their own building. If I was the Houston Texans, I would be a little bit uncomfortable.
I think that'd be a good game.
Would be a great game. I
Based
do
on how
feel
the offensive line played this last week, I'd be terrified. But
I do feel sad though, because I was really hoping for one playoff game. And I was really hoping for a Houston and Baltimore Ravens matchup between the Houston Texans defense and Lamar Jackson. I was really hoping we could get a chance to see that. But then, Loop, their kicker, was lagging too much on his kick for the game winner. Yeah, but other than that, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited to have a free football weekend, a free football playoff weekend where our team's not playing. So it'll be quite exciting.
Yes, it will.
And then, meanwhile, Jordan will not be getting any sleep still, knowing the fact that the Miami Hurricanes are in the national championship. Probably going to end up playing the Indiana Hoosiers, it seems.
Yeah, it seems like Oregon just doesn't want to win this game. They already have 3 turnovers. The first play was a pick 6. The second turnover, they fumbled, and Indiana was already in a first and goal situation. And then the third turnover, they gave it to them in the red zone. So I don't know what's happening. Like, Oregon just decided not to compete today.
Yeah.
I wonder if Dante Moore stays at school after this.
I think he does.
Yeah, I mean,
well, and clearly Tristan Chambliss might end up going to the NFL, which, by the way, he's a dude. Like, he's an absolute dude. And I would be very curious if Dante Moore doesn't come out. And there's some speculation about it being 50-50. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if Chambliss jumps up a little bit to be QB2. Right behind Mendoza. So I would not be the least bit surprised about it.
yeah, Oregon.
I feel like everyone talks about like his size. I'm like, he's not that small, Chambliss. But I mean, he's not huge, but he's not like Jaden Daniels size or Lamar Jackson size. The news coming out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, do you guys have any other final thoughts?
The next time we'd be doing this is what? Next Wednesday?
Possibly next Wednesday. Unless it's all due to your basketball schedule.
Because I was trying to see. Okay, so I will be on camera one more time before the national championship because I don't know what would happen to me. So. But I would love to thank this man and this man only for being my Lord and Savior. So.
Is he really related to
Jesus Christ? Yeah.
No. Is he really related to Kadarius?
No, I don't think so, and I hope not. But yeah, I don't think so.
Well, I was gonna say, if he was related to Kadarius Toney, he basically, like the scene in Space Jam, held out a football and gave him everything of his talent. If that was true,
Yeah.
Catch was absurd.
He is absurd. If we win the whole thing, I would have I already have his name up on the stadium, like with like Ray Lewis and like all of our greats. I would already have it up there.
By the way, Jordan, I am going to be drafting him in our fantasy league, so just letting you know.
Yeah, with the amount of draft capital I'll send somebody for him, I'd probably destroy the league. Like, I would just trade all of my draft capital and just ruin my only. I'll gladly go 0-15 and just to have him on my team.
So
wait,
what about you,
Jordan? Are you in?
No,
you're not in the one that Cameron and I are in now. The one that I won.
I might invite him though. I don't know if he's down for an auto draft league, but
no, the other one, the non-auto draft one.
I'm in the Aaron's Jeopardy fan club one.
Well, no, that one too, but the one that Cam.
Which, by the way,
Bobby.
I won. Just saying.
oh. All right.
Yeah.
Do you have anything, Brandon?
Some of my leagues, but no, free W this week against the bye, so that'll be nice.
It'll be really nice.
And go Broncos.
Nice weekend.
I just want to see. I just want to see what Michael Irvin's reaction is if the Hurricanes win the ball.
I was gonna say something, but
He's gonna get a comically large belt.
Good Jordan. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's all a meme at this point. We may need to talk to Josh to see if we could do something with short form with Michael Irvin. But yeah, I'm excited because if there's one thing about the Denver Broncos, or specifically the AFC,
There's always hope.
there is always hope. There is always hope for the Broncos and the AFC. It's been a blast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. For the MHRT Network page. And we mentioned it above, but there was a join feature. There's a join feature, which is almost like a membership feature. There's a $2.99 subscription, $6.99 subscription, and a $12.99 subscription. Entirely up to you. There's really no pressure. You sign up for what it is that you guys feel like, and then and then there's also a Mainly Broncos YouTube channel. I'll have to check and see whether or not they are doing memberships for that YouTube channel as well, or if we have just a few more things we need to unlock for that to happen. We do a bunch of short form. That's over there on TikTok, over there on Instagram. That's mostly where we are most popular, is the TikTok and Instagram. So make sure you follow those. And obviously the boys. Support the boys, right? So make sure you follow us over there on X, on Twitter. Follow Jordan and his obnoxious takes over there at Jordan T. Lopez. Follow Brandon when he posts every 15 days. Make sure you follow him at Brandon Miller PO. And as we clearly have stated, they are not related. I know basketball season is going on, but Brandon Miller of Mainly Broncos is not related to Brandon Miller, the NBA basketball player.
Thankfully, those seem to have stopped.
Allegedly. I may have just ignited 50%.
Let it be known that I am white and not that tall.
Don't make that amount of money. And also follow me as well at Cameron Parker PO. Follow the MHRT Network, Twitter handle as well. Mainly Broncos at Mainly Broncos. Shout out to again the new member Rudy, who just joined over there for the MHRT Network. Thank you guys, it has been an absolute blast. And until next time.
Let's go Broncos! God bless Bo Nix!
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out.